So, we are diving into Disney's live-action Moana trailer drop, but we're not doing a dry recap. I'm breaking down what this means for the franchise, for fans, and for how live-action remakes are playing the game right now. I'm going to push past the surface and talk about the choices, the risks, and the cultural currents pulsing behind the scenes. Let's get into it. What stands out immediately is the deliberate reimagining language Disney is using. They're not simply translating Moana to live action, they're framing it as a reimagining. Personally, I think that signals two things. 1. They know fans expect color and energy from the original. 2. They're trying to give themselves room to reinterpret the story without the weight of a direct remake. In my opinion, that nuance matters because it hints at a trend: big-budget remakes that ride the line between nostalgia and fresh interpretation rather than a one-to-one retread. First big idea, Maui remains the center of gravity, even beyond the animation's charm. Dwayne Johnson is back as the trickster demigod, Maui, complete with the iconic hair and swagger. What makes this really interesting is how Johnson's star power can redefine Maui for new audiences who've never seen the animated film. A lot of the charm of Maui comes from his charisma and musical moments. In live action, the question becomes, can that same energy translate without losing the humor or the mythic scale? From my perspective, the trailer hints that the filmmakers want Maui to act as both mentor and mischief-maker in a more tangible, action-forward way. If you take a step back and think about it, keeping Maui in bright, larger-than-life focus might be Disney's strategy to anchor the film with a familiar beacon while the heroine's journey unfolds around him. Second idea, the casting of Kathryn Legia as Moana signals a careful balance between familiarity and new interpretation. She's a newcomer, and that absence of a long-standing screen presence for Moana could work in two opposite directions: fresh performance, or a risk of not instantly connecting with the audience. What many people don't realize is that live-action Moana lands in a crowded space of nostalgia-driven projects where the original performances set a high bar. If the new Moana can internalize the character's resolve and curiosity with a similar or better vocal presence, the film might actually deepen Moana's archetype for a new generation. One thing that immediately stands out is how the producers are leaning into a reimagined origin for the world's navigation mythos. This could broaden the cultural lens around the story while preserving its core spirit. Third idea, the trailer leans on familiar beats: the crab obsessed with shiny objects, Kail, the lava demon, as formidable adversary, and the beloved songs. The strategy here is dual-purpose: reassure old fans with touchstones and invite newcomers with blockbuster spectacle. What this really suggests is a reiterative adaptation. You can market moments you already know while layering new visual language and pacing for a live-action audience. A detail I find fascinating is how live-action can simultaneously honor song cues and potentially restage them for cinematic impact. If you look at how modern remakes pace action set-pieces, you'll notice the rhythm shifts toward quicker, more seamless CGI integration, which can either feel expensive or cluttered depending on execution. This raises a deeper question: will the musicality of Moana, the heart of its identity, still land as powerfully in live action, or will it require recalibration to fit a different sonic environment? Fourth idea, the creative team signals a thoughtful integration of the original composers and new collaborators. Lin-Manuel Miranda, Opataya Foy, and Mark Mancina remain as pillars, with Thomas Kail directing. What makes this really interesting is how the live-action project balances continuity with fresh collaborations. In my opinion, keeping the core musical voice while inviting new interpretive layers could yield a hybrid that preserves Moana's voice while exploring updated themes or production techniques. From my point of view, the combination of Hamilton's storytelling sensibility and Moana's mythic voyage hints at a showpiece that could feel both timeless and contemporary. A deeper takeaway, the behind-the-scenes collaboration signals a confidence that the film's music can evolve without losing its cultural backbone. Fifth idea, the release strategy and framing as a summer blockbuster. The July 10th release slots this as a major tentpole, leveraging existing demand for the property and the large-scale production values fans expect. What makes this significant is how live-action remakes are becoming a testbed for global audience engagement. If the film hits the right emotional notes while delivering spectacle, it could set a precedent for future Disney adaptations to push more ambitious storytelling while leaning on nostalgia as a starting point rather than a finish line. If you step back and consider the broader trend, this could indicate Disney's willingness to invest heavily in world-building that isn't strictly bound to the original's narrative tempo. Deeper insight: beyond the trailer, this move reflects a larger pattern in which studios repackage beloved animated IPs into live-action universes with expanded mythologies and cross-media potential. The question isn't just, will people like it, but, what does this do to the original's legacy and to how audiences experience myth and voyage on screen? If the live-action ecosystem succeeds, it might encourage more expansive, interconnected storytelling, think spin-offs, short-form content, and even new cultural perspectives braided into the Moana world. That's the real lever, turning a single film into a continuing conversation rather than a one-off event. Closing thought: Moana's live-action reimagining is less about copying a movie and more about re-architecting a myth for a global audience that demands both familiarity and novelty. What matters isn't just the spectacle, but how this new version negotiates identity, culture, and the power of music to bind generations. So here's the provocative question I'm carrying: as live-action remakes evolve, will audiences value the whisper of a new voice inside a trusted frame, or will they demand that the new version match the emotional resonance of the original? I'd love to hear what you think. Do you want this Moana to honor the classic tone, or are you hoping for a bolder, more reimagined anthem for today?